Hello, I'm Professor Reboot, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to structure your paper using MLA 9th citation style. This video will focus exclusively on the creation of the overall structure of your paper, including how to set up your front page header, your title, your line spacing, and your pagination. In the future, we will focus on the nuances of in-text citation style, as well as how to structure your bibliographic citations in what MLA refers to as your Works Cited page. Now, MLA, or the Modern Language Association, is currently in its 9th edition, which was released in April of 2021. Why would we need so many editions of a citation style guide? After all, we're in a 9th edition. How many types of things might we need to reference? Well, I'll answer that. Just a few years ago, or even in 2021, when the 9th edition was released, ChatGPT, Copilot, Bard, those are just a few examples of types of media that we might use to gather information that did not yet exist at the forefront of our research strategies. And so citation style guides like MLA or APA go through edition changes through a rigorous peer review process from the Modern Language Association or other style guides governing bodies to ensure that we're able to capture the best method of documenting our research in that style based on what types of research media are available to us. So MLA 9th is the current version of citation style as of the making of this video in 2025. However, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a version of MLA 10th in a very short order, because media is rapidly changing, and as we adapt, our research strategies must change with them. Let's get started. In our first example, we will begin in Microsoft Word. You are looking at the Microsoft OneDrive version of Word, but it is very similar to a hard drive version if you have MS Word on your computer. I plan to also show you the same method using Google Docs so that you have both a fee-based service and a freemium version that you can use, because there is nuance in how you set up that structure and where you'll find the buttons. But generally speaking, MLA has a very rigid structure of how you set up your paper. So let's begin by setting up the front page of our MLA 9th citation style paper. Now let's begin with setting up your MLA 9th citation style first page. Before we begin, we need to set our spacing to double space. So in OneDrive, you're going to go to Layout and then select More Options, Paragraph Options. And here you'll see where your line spacing exists. And also there's this spacing between paragraphs, before or after. I'm sure you've noticed when you've just started typing into Microsoft that there's this kind of default that puts a little bit of extra white space between your paragraphs. Well, MLA Citation Style Guide actually speaks to how you set up even the spacing between your paragraphs. And so we need to take that out. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that to 0. And I'm going to change our line spacing to be double in accordance with MLA 9th style. So now that we've got our line spacing sorted out, the first thing that happens is we put the student's name at the top of the paper. The student's name is your name if you're the one writing the paper. Now, I'm Professor Reboot. I'm the one used to receiving the papers. So I'm going to go ahead and put your name at the top of this. We're going to call you Jamie Student today. Next on the list for your header is Professor or Doctor or whatever honorific your particular professor chooses to use. It is first and last name. So it could be Dr. Sigurdsson, Professor Araminta Reboot, whatever it is that your professor goes by, make sure you use their chosen honorific. An honorific is how you refer to a person. Now, if you went to public school in the United States, you know that most people went by the honorific of Mix, Ms., Mr., Mrs. Here in higher ed, though, the traditional honorific is either doctor or professor. Some go by instructor. So after you have done that, you enter the name of the course and the course section number. So in this case, let's say it's English 101, which is traditionally English composition. Lastly, we put the date that we have written this paper. Now, as of the recording of this video, it is actually July 1st, 2025. And that completes the header of our first page in MLA 9th format. Notice that it is double spaced. And I also want to draw your attention to the font. MLA actually does have something to say about what font styles you use as well. It wants you to use what is considered a professional style. Now, for the most part, Microsoft Word and Google Docs both will have a default professional style. However, depending on if your paper is read in digital or print format, you may want to use what is called a sans serif or serif font. Right now, we're looking at Aptos, which is a sans serif font. What that means is there's no fancy little line dash making the T's, the P's, the E's have like a little extra kick or a serif. Sans serif means without serif. Let's just switch that to Times New Roman so you can see the difference. Now in Times New Roman, do you see these tiny little tails that are added to the bottom of the P, the top of the J? So there's a little dash at the top of the D in student. That is a serif. So if you're primarily writing in digital, we recommend you use a sans serif font. If you're writing in print, we recommend a serif font, but either way, make sure that you use a professional font. In other words, no Comic Sans Serif. So once you've set up your header, MLA has strict guidelines about what comes next. Here's where you put the title of your paper. Not the assignment name, but an actual title. Now, generally speaking, I recommend you come up with the title of your paper after you've completed it. It'll be much easier for you to summarize what your paper is about in a single line after you've actually written the paper. But let's imagine we've done that and we'll say that this paper is how to structure an MLA 9th paper with Professor Reboot. And I'm going to go ahead and hit enter because the next line needs to start here. And this line needs to be centered. So I'm going to go up here to where our center justification is, or text alignment, depending on what tool you are using or what version of Microsoft. It'll either say justification or alignment. And I'm going to center. So the title is centered. Your header is justified left. And then you have the first line of your paragraph. You'll notice that I started typing text. If I hadn't, it would have tried to keep it at the center justification of the previous line. Microsoft is, just like all tools today, embedded with a subtle AI that is trying to help you. That is not always helpful. So I bear that in mind, particularly when we get to the nuance of in-text citation. So here we begin our paper with our first paragraph. And as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and hit tab to enter or indent that, and then I'm just going to finish out the line so that it carries over to the next so that you can see how that indentation structures. That is a traditional indentation. When we get to Works Cited, you're going to need to know how to use a hanging indentation, which is the reverse of what you see here. The last thing we need to do to structure our MLA 9th citation style paper is to put a header in. Now, MLA has strict rules about that as well. If you haven't noticed, this is already preset to 1-inch margins on all sides. 1 inch from the top, it appears the first line of text, 1 inch from the left. And if you were to measure in from the right, though I've used a jagged edge or a left justified, you would find that it is also 1 inch from the right. So in MLA format, you do need to insert your page number and your last name before that page number. And the easiest way to do that is to go to Insert, Page Number, and it does need to be on the right side of the page, 1/2 inch down, 1 inch over from the right. Now with the defaults in Microsoft Word, we are fortunate that it already puts that 1/2 inch down and 1/2 inch before the beginning of the paper, so we don't have to worry about that. And yes, I do recall going to a college where my first professor of advanced English composition, who later made me his TA, so I have been doing this now for 30 years, he would take a ruler and put it on your paper, and if your margins were off by even more than 1/8 of an inch, he would mark it in red pen and hand it back and say, you had to fix your margins before he would even accept your paper for review. So it is important that you follow citation style guides. There's one more reason it's important to follow citation style structure. It signals to your reader how they are to interpret the research that you embed in the body of your paper, the in-text citations, as well as how to interpret your bibliographic references or works cited in MLA 9th at the end of your paper. By signaling with structure, you're letting your reader know exactly how they can follow in your research footsteps, which is critical because that is the foundation of academic writing. Now, I know many of you are going to be tempted to use a citation generator like EasyBib, or perhaps the AI embeds within Microsoft or Google itself to create an MLA paper. And I advise you against that, is that there are many, many, many types of sources that you can cite. And if you cite all sources the same way until you understand the differences between sources, which will be a video in this series, you could very easily not cite your sources correctly. And if you do that, you could be contributing to, well, at least a question of academic integrity. Now, as long as you are attempting to write your own paper and attempting to cite, for the most part, most colleges will not look at mistakes in MLA 9th citation structure as violations of academic integrity policy. However, it is possible if you violate the structures of MLA citation style or any citation style that your school may have an honor code or an academic integrity pledge in the student handbook that does hold you accountable for violating academic integrity. So using MLA 9th citation style as pristinely as necessary will help you avoid such allegations. Back to the paper. We are at the point where you'll notice I put my cursor in the header next to the page number and it reverted to the structural style of the page number, and write the last name of the student here. And I'm putting 3 spaces in because at some point this paper might dip into double, even triple digits, depends on how long the paper is. And I need to make sure there is at least 1 space between the last name of the student and the number that appears on the page. Now in Microsoft, if I click out, you'll notice that it reverts back to the page number. And if I were to insert a page break, bringing us into page 2, you'll notice that header automatically comes with me. So that's how you make an MLA 9th structured paper in Microsoft Word. Please bear in mind that Works Cited does get its own page. So just to give you an idea, let's imagine we've already written the paper. Let's just show you that Works Cited would start here, first entry, Works Cited, just like with the title, gets centered because it is the title of the page, and then the first entry would be the first alphabetical entry in your bibliography, but we'll get to that in another video. So here we are in an untitled document. Let's repeat the process using Google Drive. Are using Apple Pages, I want to warn you that Google Drive does not convert Pages documents, and for the most part in higher education, they're used to using Microsoft Word. So if you are using an Apple product, I do recommend that you transition your paper into either PDF or DOCX, which is the current Microsoft Word or HTML markup Microsoft Word version of your document. Do not try to keep it as Pages, because unless your instructor has an Apple machine themselves, they will not be able to view your document. And for the most part, learning management systems like Blackboard, Canvas, Brightspace, they too cannot interpret Pages documents. But Microsoft Word and PDFs are good to go. All right, so here we are at the top of another paper. This time, we're going to say that the student's name is Terry Student. However, who remembers what I forgot to do first? That's right, set the line spacing. So in Google Drive, you'll find that under Format, Line and Paragraph Spacing, and we want to switch it from what will be defaulted as 1.15, we want to switch that to the double option. Once we do that, we're all set. And then double space, professor, whatever your instructor's name is, the course number, the date you wrote the paper, your title, the first paragraph, Remember to center justify and then indent. I'm going to use this increase indent tool here. Notice how Google puts most of its features right here at the top. Arial is a sans serif font. So again, that would be primarily for digital. If you're using Google Docs, chances are you are using a digital interface anyway. But if you do need to convert it, you can. It is also recommended that you use size 12 or pitch 12. This is font, this is pitch. But I'm going to go ahead and leave that at 11 for now because that's fine. We've started our paragraph. Now let's insert a page number. Google makes that pretty easy. If I just click into it, it actually bumps me into the header area. However, if I want to, I can also just do the same thing that I would do and actually insert page numbers, which is under Format, Page Number. And then it's going to ask me where. I want it in the header. I want to start on page 1, show on the first page, apply. And I do need to move that to the right, so I'm going to go ahead and change the justification up here to the right. And just as before, go ahead and pop the last name of the student in and put some extra spacing in for padding in case we dip into the double or triple digits. So that is how you create it in both Google Drive and Microsoft Word. Now let's assume that you need to export this from Google Drive. Go ahead and go to File. Well, first name your file. So in this case, we would probably give it whatever name would help you remember finding it later. But I'll go ahead and say, and then you can export it from here by clicking File. Notice you have Download and you have all of these options under Download. Microsoft Word, ODT, which is open document format. Some of you might be using an open source word processor. If you do use ODT, bear in mind it is kind of you to switch that to DocX or PDF on export because most learning management systems cannot read an ODT file, just like it can't read a Pages file. RTF is rich text format. PDF is picture display format. That is like using a photograph of text, and a photograph of text means that your instructor may or may not be able to interpret the text on the page without support. Plain text is text without any formatting at all. Highly recommend against that. And then you have some options that you really don't need to worry about, at least not for papers. You have a web page export, an EPUB export, which is like Kindle, and a markdown export. So I would refer you to use Microsoft Word or PDF depending on your professor's preferences. So there you have it. That's how you set up the structure of an MLA 9th paper. And again, I'm Professor Reboot. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.